Hello and welcome to this Forex Preview at xm.com. I'm Maria Pachardez, and joining me is investment analyst Marios Hadjikyriacos. We'll be discussing Eurozone PMIs and the outlook for the euro. So Marios, preliminary PMI data out of the Eurozone will hit markets on Friday. What are we expecting to see, given that the past few weeks have been difficult for the euro, and concerns about the virus in China may complicate matters even more for European business?
Well, the forecasts point to a small decline in both the manufacturing and the services indices. That's probably owed to concerns about the impact that the virus in China will have on Chinese economic growth and therefore on the Eurozone. So the Eurozone is quite exposed to China in terms of exports. German manufacturers in particular rely on Chinese demand to absorb their exports. So if Chinese growth takes a severe hit from this, then European growth might slow down even further, and European growth is already very fragile. So the Eurozone is barely growing already. So if we slow down even further, that might mean that the economy will be stagnant over the coming quarters, or worse yet, we might be facing the risk of a potential recession. Now, what's important here is that if such a shock hits the Eurozone, there's very little that the local authorities can do to counter it. Monetary policy is already exhausted. The ECB has cut rates deep into negative territory. It's already doing QE. So doing more of the same might not really boost the economy. Fiscal policy could play a bigger role, but the only nation that has a low debt to GDP ratio and therefore can do fiscal stimulus is Germany, and the Germans really don't want to do that. So in fact, we had a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers this week, and they agreed that fiscal policy should play a bigger role, but only if this downturn worsens. So long story short, for real stimulus to arrive in the Eurozone, the situation probably needs to worsen even further from here.
Okay, so taking all this into consideration, what's the outlook for the euro?
Well, it's not. It's negative, obviously. We've seen it collapse lately. Now, a real reason for that, which I think explains the collapse in euro-dollar in particular, is that the Eurozone is more exposed to China than America is. So a slowdown in China will hurt the Eurozone more than it will America. Now, the outlook for the euro is negative. For that to change, in my view, we would need strong signals that fiscal stimulus is on the way, and for that to happen, we might need to be staring the risk of a recession in the face. So the overall outlook is negative, but I will also say this: when any currency pair falls as violently as euro-dollar fell lately, the risk of a sharp corrective pullback higher is quite high. What does that mean? If we get any piece of good news out of the Eurozone or any piece of negative news out of the US, then we might see a very sharp spike higher in euro-dollar, because a lot of traders will be taking profit on their prior short bets. So to sum all of this up, then outlook for the euro remains negative, but in the near term, we do have the risk of a sharp corrective pullback higher.
Marios, thanks so much, and thanks for joining us at xm.com.